Hello, and thanks for tuning in. As always, I'm Reverend JR, and today we're going to be taking a look at and responding to a video from Prager University.
Imagine there's an organization that claims to stand for one thing, but actually stands for another.
Imagine that there's an organization which claims to be about education, but actually stands for pushing a particular set of ideals.
Imagine this organization calls itself a healthcare provider.
Imagine that this organization calls itself a university.
But it's not involved in preserving life.
But it's not involved in actually providing education.
It's involved in ending it.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
And imagine that you help finance this organization.
Yes, imagine if you had spent money on this university.
Whether you want to or not.
Yes, imagine you had to pay taxes to support a telecom infrastructure that allows such universities as this to exist in the first place.
Well, you don't have to imagine. This organization exists, and it has a name with which you are very familiar. It calls itself Planned Parenthood.
Yes, imagine there was this 501c3 nonprofit under the United States Code of Law that called itself Prager University. And because it is tax exempt, it is also falling under the exact same things it's complaining about.
And the deception begins right there.
Honey, baby, you took the words right out of my mouth.
Planned Parenthood doesn't help people plan for parenthood.
Well, you're wrong, but that hasn't ever stopped Prager before, has it?
It helps people escape it, and that's only the start of its deceptions.
I suppose it's kinda like how Prager University helps you escape reality.
Planned Parenthood tells you it's one of the nation's leading women's healthcare providers.
Yeah, and you claim to be one of the nation's leading educational groups, calling yourself a university. But at least Planned Parenthood is actually doing what the name implies, and helping women with healthcare, and the concerns related to those particular sort of healthcare needs. And they are one of the best in the nation for doing it.
But it provides very little health care.
Yeah, see, and you also provide very little education. Should we get your university and nonprofit status revoked because you're not doing what your name implies?
It tells you it provides adoption referrals, but the only adoption advice it is likely to offer is Google it.
See, here's the thing, though. On their own website, they tell you that the first place you want to check is the local office, so that way you can get in touch with a real person. So, a cursory glance of their website tells me that you have never looked at it. I wouldn't expect much from someone doing a Prager video, because I have the distinct feeling, based on the way Prager's website's set up, that Google is not something you're familiar with, and it scares you.
Most deceptive of all, Planned Parenthood tells you that abortions are a small part of what it does.
Breaking news! Prager University thinks the truth is deceptive. Film at 11.
But it performs more abortions than anyone else in America.
You know, the Cleveland Clinic is the best cardiac and heart surgery in the world. But I want to let you in on a little secret. Heart surgery is just a very small part of what they do. You understand how these two things can happen at the same time, right? You do understand that they can be well known for something that is not their mainstay, or something that they don't even do a lot, even though they do it more than anyone else. Sorry, I felt like I really needed to drive the nail in on that one, much like John Henry, who died upon his hill. Yeah, I know.
Here are the facts. The folks who run Planned Parenthood boast that they provide life-saving cancer screenings. And they do, just not that many of them.
Newsflash, women who go to Planned Parenthood do not go there generally to see their gynecologist for a mammogram. Apparently this is something I need to tell this lady on the camera in front of us here. 'Cause she got the boobs, but she don't know how the boob doctor works.
Less than 2% of the nation's screenings each year.
Let me try this a different way. Ma'am, you don't seem to be aware that mammograms for breast cancer typically do not happen until after you've hit about 40 years of age, whereas Planned Parenthood tends to happen when you're about 14 and up. Can you understand why breast cancer screenings are not exactly routine for older teenagers and young adults? Is this beyond your grasp? Yet you're standing here purportedly making a video for someone claiming to be a university, and you don't even understand what routine medical checkups are expected of someone your age. I'm guessing Prager University doesn't have a medical department, do they?
They talk about providing breast exams. They do, but just not that many of them. Again, less than 2% of the nation's total.
Again, that's presumably because the pool of candidates to become potentially mothers is very different from the pool of candidates who are getting close to menopause and being routinely tested for cancer, madam. This is a bit like saying that pediatricians aren't really child doctors because they aren't providing enough screenings for hernia in 2-year-olds. It just doesn't make any sense why you have a problem with this. Do you think there are a lot of 7-year-olds getting aneurysms? Do you think there are many 15-year-olds getting strokes? Are you genuinely surprised that the majority of people at a pediatrician's office are not there to have their gout levels checked? Does it genuinely surprise you?
They talk about providing ultrasounds, but the last thing they want to do is show a pregnant woman an image of her growing child. So they don't. The ultrasound is only for Planned Parenthood's use, to better facilitate patients' abortions.
I attempted to research this, and I cannot find evidence to support or deny it. There is a video which allegedly purports to show a Planned Parenthood manager, former Planned Parenthood manager, telling us that they do not show the ultrasounds to the mothers. But I've also seen threads of people talking where they saw their ultrasounds when they requested them. So I genuinely do not know if they show them or not, and if they only use them for abortions or not. But the point remains, it doesn't matter, because we're talking about a non-profit operating within the bounds of the law, much like Prager. We also know that sources related closely to the same ones as this have lied about what Planned Parenthood does with the fetal material before, so I have no reason to trust them when they say this. The information Prager is attempting to give you, that they mined from a biased source, for which no confirmation can apparently be given. Again, I looked for it. If you have evidence to the contrary, leave it in the link below and I'll look it over. Maybe it can be the subject of another video. For now, it's not important to what Prager is saying. And now that I've wasted a bit of time on this tangent here, let's jump back into the video.
In other words, abortion, not women's health, is Planned Parenthood's reason for being.
We're going to be here forever if I go into all the points there, but abortion is part of women's health. Sometimes it's medically necessary. There are ethical quandaries all over, like, is Plan B okay after conception, since that is technically an abortion? Taking any of the medications which prohibit the fertilized egg from grasping to the uterus lining is essentially an abortion, the way these people look at it. So, leaving that where it is, because again, that can be the subject of another video if you really want to hear, we must say that propaganda, not education, is Prager University's reason for being, and we should force them, apparently, to not be able to call themselves a university.
Every year, it does more than a third of all abortions in America, over 321,000 of them.
Last year, Prager University told over 321,000 lies. That's over 1/3 of the lies in the nation. I bet you didn't know that.
That's equivalent to every inhabitant of St. Louis or Pittsburgh wiped out every year.
Well, no, it's not the same thing at all. I'm sorry, but you're wrong. I don't need to explain it any further than that. I do have a question, though. If these fetuses are actually indeed people, can the mother and her partner claim them as dependents for the 9 months until they're born? Just curious.
That's over 880 abortions every day.
Ow, 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 damn it, Prager, you stepped on my feels and argued towards them. Almost like it's some kind of fallacy. Almost like it has nothing to do with the actual argument. And you're just looking to get me worked up in hopes that I will agree with you, instead of getting worked up and not agree with you. Is that basically it? I would say I can read you like a book, but a book is generally coherent.
An abortion every 98 seconds.
So what?
And while the number of total abortions in the United States is going down, Planned Parenthood's market share of abortions has increased from 23% in 2006 to 34% in 2016.
See, here's the thing. I don't care. The number goes up and down. We get it. That's statistics. We understand. Planned Parenthood happens to do more of them, even though overall there are less of them happening. Which actually speaks to the efficacy of Planned Parenthood. You said it yourself. The raw number is down. That's thanks to things that Planned Parenthood hands out, like condoms. You're saying you want to cause the number required to go up, and you want the number of places that can do it to be fewer, so you want women to go into back alleys with coat hangers like they did in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, and potentially kill themselves, rather than having a good, clean, sterile facility where they can learn about the dangers of STDs and whatever. And they can get condoms to prevent the abortion in the first place, and prevent the conception in the first place. I tell you, that's a wild mentality, and I don't believe I can agree with you.
So when Planned Parenthood says it's devoted to women's reproductive rights, what it means is it's devoted to aborting as many babies as possible.
So the part where they hand out condoms to reduce the number of conceptions, to reduce the number of abortions, that doesn't factor into your mindset at all, does it? The fact that they help women get cancer screenings doesn't factor into your mind, even though you realize they do 2% of them. That's a lot. I don't understand this cognitive dissonance that you have. Planned Parenthood appears to do a lot of good things. You disagree with one of them, and you think the whole thing should be shut down because you think that one thing is all it is. I think that's called projection, because you're making a video on a channel claiming to be a university that is doing the exact opposite of education, which is to say, you are performing indoctrination. You are spreading dogmatic propaganda in order to push people to one side of the political spectrum. That is disingenuous, and you're kind of a jerk for doing it.
And here's the biggest deception of them all. Planned Parenthood would like you to believe that abortion is only 3% of the total services they provide. 3% doesn't sound like very much, does it? But here's how they get to that 3%. They count every discrete clinical interaction as its own service.
So you mean to tell me the only thing a baby doctor does is deliver babies? The epidurals don't count. The pre- and postnatal visits don't count. Nothing apart from pulling the tiny baby from the vagina counts as a service that an OBGYN doctor renders. Are you f***ing dumb?
What is a discrete clinical interaction?
Well, that's when me and your mom get together and do these things and you're too young to learn about this.
Pretty much anything you do from the moment you walk into one of their clinics. I'll give you an example. Let's say a woman comes into Planned Parenthood for one service, an abortion. Before providing an abortion, Planned Parenthood has to confirm that the woman is pregnant, right?
No, that's silly. People get abortions all the time who aren't pregnant. I mean, you don't think that a doctor care visit is a service?
So they administer another service, a pregnancy test. That's 2 services.
And let me guess, the part where you get the doctor's interpretation and advice going forward about how to plan your parenthood doesn't count for reasons, right?
Then, after the abortion, on your way out the door, they hand you a prescription. That's 3 services.
Hey, you guys, I just learned that handing out prescriptions isn't a service. Courtesy of Prager University, I'm gonna make sure I tell the pharmacist I don't have to pay for it no more, because they're not actually providing me a service by giving me a consultation and filling my pill bottle. So I shouldn't have to pay for it. Yep.
And there are many other services provided during the abortion process that
But, newsflash, there's lots of discrete clinical interactions that also aren't part of the abortion service at all, that are services they provide discreetly. So anyway, that's where I'm going to end that video today, because this has gone on quite long enough, and Prager has given us enough misinformation in the guise of being a university, when clearly they are not. So if you enjoyed that, click the thumbs up, leave a comment down below, tell me what you think. This is a hot button issue after all. And be sure to share this with all your friends. Spread it like a wildfire virus STD. And as always, this has been Reverend JR, thanking you for tuning in and signing off.